Welcome back. If you haven't watched the first part of this video, I recommend watching that first because this is a continuation of the first part of the video and it was a very long video, so I decided to cut it in two, and I'm literally just filming after this. So anyway, so in this video I'm going to be talking about the points that I made in the first video on understanding that there are certain topics or there are certain things that can lead to a detriment in your mental health. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the ways in which you can alleviate or reduce that stress on your mental health, and understand that mental health is very, very important, especially in doing a PhD or a long committed course. So the first thing that you do need to realize in order to alleviate some of the stress is that you are not alone. There are so many other PhD students in your country and across the globe that are going through similar or the same thing. In knowing you're not alone kind of gives you some sort of solace, it gives you some sort of easing, because going through something alone is just so much burden, the weight of the world is on your shoulders. But knowing that there are other people there going through the same thing, going through the same struggles, just makes it a tiny bit easier. But it doesn't finish the stress. So here are some more tips. So the first part of my video, the reason why I did it is because I want to reiterate that it is important to be able to understand that there are reasons why your mental health may deteriorate, and be open to actually ask for help, because asking for help is very difficult, especially if you're a very proud person. You might not want to admit that there is something that you need help on, but if you are open to be able to ask other people for help, you're making yourself, I don't want to say vulnerable, but you're giving yourself that ability to be able to be healed instead of locking yourself away. So being open to ask for help can be the first step in recovering. So one thing that you can do to alleviate some of the stress from your PhD is to seek comfort from friends and family. So just being around your family sometimes, it's just, even saying nothing is just a way of relieving stress, because you grew up with your family. Your parents are just biologically something that will always, most of the time, will always give you ease. We're just biologically made like that. Also your siblings or your aunts and uncles or anything like that, it's good to be able to go to people that you know very well and just let off some steam, talk to them about your problems, and also your friends. Now, speaking to your friends about your problems can make your problems seem 100 times less big than you initially thought they were. So this is a very important thing that you should practice, is to seek comfort from friends and family. However, I do want to recognize that some people may not be close to their families, and some people may have a very small amount of friends. Now, I'm not saying this as in I have more friends than you, you're just worthless or anything, but it's recognizing that a lot of people don't have a big community of friends, or friends that they can actually talk to about certain things. And it's important in understanding and acknowledging that this can be the case. Sometimes when you go online onto a forum or something and they say, oh, just speak to your friends, it'll be easier, but you don't really have that friend network, it can make yourself feel even worse. So it's okay in not having close friends too, but here are some other tips that you can use to alleviate some of the stress. You can be open to seeking professional help, especially offered by universities for free. I know at my university, University College London, there are professional services that you can go to, that you can talk about your stresses. You can talk about your personal life, your family life, or things that are contributing to a detriment of your mental health. And it's very important and very useful to actually speak to someone professional. I personally have not ever tried that, but I know from many instances of people speaking to professional services that they swear that it's life-changing. And if enough people are saying it, then I do believe, or I am open to believing, that this can actually help. But of course, pride actually stops us from doing a lot of these things. If you're too proud, you might not want to go to professional help. You might think that it's a waste of time, but don't knock it until you try it, I would say. And there are so many free services at universities that you can actually go to if you're experiencing some of the stress that I've talked about in the previous video from your PhD. Another thing that you can do, especially if your friendship network isn't the greatest, is to join societies and join online forums or communities of other PhD students. Even if they're not doing the same exact thing, they're not in the same field, it's nice to actually know PhD students from something completely different. Like I said in my previous video related to this, sometimes your immediate environment might be too competitive, might be too toxic, and it's nice to go to another completely detached group and actually speak to them about certain things, and you know there won't be judgment, there won't be any sort of competitiveness, and there's no relation to your actual group. And it's very nice to actually speak to other PhD students and go to different societies and even learn new things that you can incorporate, new skills that you can incorporate into your PhD. And essentially building all these skills and developments will make your PhD just a bit easier and you'll gain more from it. One thing that you can do is vent. Now, it's important in realizing that sometimes stress can lead to pent-up anger, and that anger essentially should be released or manifested out of the body in a way that is healthy, so in a way that doesn't harm anyone else. For example, there are many activities that you can blow off steam, like they do professional plate breaking where you throw plates in a house and stuff like that, like tomahawking and stuff, like destructive stuff that doesn't harm anyone else. So feel free to vent off your steam or anger like that. Playing tennis, playing sport, these things let off your anger. Sometimes they're more efficient, or they actually work better than you think, so don't knock it until you try it. Don't be in your head too much. Don't just say no to everything, because you're just assuming things won't work without actually trying it. And actually, when you're physically doing something, it actually works a lot better than in your head saying no to it. One of the issues that I spoke about in the previous video was issues with your supervisor. Maybe your supervisor was being toxic or demanding or downright harassing. Sometimes it's important to actually speak to your supervisors face to face and saying that you think they're out of line in certain ways. You think that maybe what they're expecting of you is just too much. Of course, supervisor, it can be a sticky topic, and sometimes you don't want to overstep your line, but it's important if you're having too much stress from your PhD, if it's just too much and you feel like you're having the worst time, it's important to speak to your supervisor first, because being all in your head and assuming certain things is not the way it actually unfolds. Sometimes you think your supervisor will have a completely different reaction to what they will have, but when you speak to them, it goes much better. So sometimes at a last resort, speak to your supervisor and explain to them that what is expected of you, your situation at home is very difficult, and that you're not performing in the way that you want to. And honestly, most of the time, even if the supervisor seems incredibly horrible, they will understand. The other issues that I talked about in the other video about how it can affect your mental health is the financial aspect of PhDs, whether it's self-funding or earning extra income from the stipend, the little stipend that you do earn. One thing that can benefit you is to try to find alternative financial arrangement. What I'm saying is, it's not the best thing to work alongside your PhD just because the PhD is so stressful as it is. And if you're working 20 hours somewhere else, those 20 hours could have been your rest periods, which is incredibly important in getting rest. And if you can, I know some people can't, but if you can, just try not to actually work. Maybe try to find an alternative arrangement. Maybe speak to your supervisor about some funding that you can apply to. Maybe if you have parents that can able to support you, maybe just leave your pride alone, and if they can support you, just take their money or borrow their money for now, because it will pay dividends. The amount of time that you save from not working can lead to such a reduction in stress. It's just so stressful to work alongside your PhD. So finding an alternative arrangement can really help your mental health and reduce that impact it has on it. So in continuing with that point, you should take a day off a week. I know a lot of PhD students are working 7 days a week, which is too much. Honestly, 7 days a week working indefinitely means you're not getting any rest. There's no break between working and not working, and eventually you'll become a living nightmare, as in you don't wake up from your sleep. There's no break. So humans are not designed to do that. We're designed to have break and rest. And in fact, within our rest periods, we actually can become a better thinker, which allows us to plan things and get more out of the things that we do physically. So make sure you have at least 1 day off a week. And if you're not getting this, please try to actually arrange or move certain things over in certain days so that you're getting 1 day of proper rest. Another thing that you can do, which often a lot of people will oppose to or secretly opposed to, is crying. I actually don't do this, but I think if you're open and if you're willing to, crying can blow off a lot of steam. Honestly, crying has been probably experimentally decided that it actually does relieve stress. So if you can cry, cry. And if you're holding back your tears, don't do it, just cry. It's fine to cry. Crying can make yourself feel better. It's such a cardinal response. It's such a instinctual response sometimes to actually cry, and often you'll feel a lot better. And keeping your tears behind is not good. It's going to probably make your health issues or mental stability even worse. Another thing that you can do to improve your mental health is something that not a lot of people think about. It's helping others. Me personally, when I help someone else, it makes me feel a lot better. It makes me feel less stressed. And just by helping someone, you realize where you're going wrong in your own work. So just helping someone else, even if you're so stressed, just help someone else. You will feel better. Humans instinctively, a lot of humans instinctively feel a lot better. We have some sort of endorphin release when we help others, and we see the satisfaction they get when we help others. So why not stop and help someone else? And actually that will make you feel better. It will give you perspective on your PhD work. It will make you an all-round better human being. Another thing that you should realize during your PhD is that it doesn't keep getting harder, it will get easier. As in, the mountain or the hill is very steep in the beginning, and then eventually you reach the peak and it just gets easier. So don't think it's just going to keep getting harder and harder. One thing that does lead to our mental health detriment is assumptions. It's assumptions that things are going to go the wrong way. It's assumption that things are going to keep getting harder. It's assumptions that we're going to lose everything. So it's important in understanding that at first there is a steep learning curve and then it gets easier. And in knowing this, we can actually plan for our mental health to be spread over a long period of time instead of just focusing on the hardest parts. Another thing that you can do to alleviate some of the stress, the mental stress, is to take a break. Yes, I know supervisors don't want to hear this, but taking a break is important and sometimes essential to take a break. Whether it's a holiday or just staying at home, taking a break is just so important for your mental health. It gives you time to reset. It gives you time to actually take in everything that you've seen for the past few months or years, and essentially taking a break can be the difference between really, really bad mental health to going back to normal. So I do recommend sometimes taking breaks. Obviously, do not take too many breaks, as that can lead to more mental health problems down the drain further on, because obviously you'll be behind in work in some capacity or the other. Now, one thing that really, really has helped me in my PhD and in my life is physical exercise. So exercising 5 or 6 times a week is so important. For me, I like jogging and running, so that helps me blow off steam. I run outside, so it lets me see things, and seeing things and feeling things like the wind and the gravel beneath your feet is so important. It stimulates the mind. It allows me to think during my runs. It allows me to get the well-required cardiovascular exercise that gets your heart rate up, the blood pumping. And there is a huge link between physical stress and emotional stress. So if you're physically letting yourself down, you're having a poor diet and you're not having enough exercise, then it will have an effect on your mental health. So please do get the right balanced healthy diets. Make sure you have plenty of carbs, fats, proteins, sugars in the right amount, and also have lots of cardiovascular exercise, at least recommended 60 minutes a week. The other thing that can help you alleviate some of the mental health issues during your PhD, especially in your PhD group, is by planning social events. So by planning social events and taking yourself out of the environment of your PhD, you're actually building new connections that you never thought were available. You're seeing your peers in a different light, and once you've gone from a different environment back to your work environment, you will actually respect your peers differently, and it'll just be easier to talk with them and spend your time with them. Oftentimes you're spending more time with your peers in your PhD than your actual family or your other personal relationships, and honestly, who wants a bad working environment? No one. So plan some social events. Another thing that you can do is during study sessions in your PhD or when you're doing research sessions is to take part in online study sessions. So I know a lot of YouTube channels do this, where you can just study with the other person. It's a pre-recorded video, sometimes it's up to 10 hours, but it's literally, it feels like human connection with someone that has nothing to do with you, that's never met you, that's probably never going to meet you. So it's nice to just Google study with me for maybe an hour, 2 hours, and that music or that environment allows you to actually sink into another world, essentially, and it can help your mental health during a tough period such as your PhD. And the last thing that I want to say about PhD and mental health and how to alleviate some of these mental health issues is by having goals. So having goals can also lead to mental health issues, but having goals that are very incremental, it allows you to keep going. For example, let's talk about YouTube. If I had a goal of reaching 10,000 subscribers from 0, it's very daunting, and 10,000 seems almost unachievable. However, if my first goal was 100 subscribers, then 200 is so much more achievable, and these milestones mark some sort of rest, some sort of achievability, if that's even a word. So it's important to have goals in your PhD. It's important to know what you want to achieve weekly, daily, monthly, yearly, so that once you reach them, you can keep going and it motivates you and it has less an effect on your mental health. So guys, I really hope this video has helped some of you students, whether you're doing a PhD specifically or even any other degree or any other thing that requires a lot of work that leads to a lot of stress. So if you like this video, please subscribe for more videos like this around PhD life, around academic life, around university life. Comment down below and we'll have a discussion on PhD and mental health. And as always, thank you for watching.